Here we go. I would like to pick up one that was toward the end. I think got lost in all the reading, was about tigers and lions, and it was about a particular inebriated lion or tiger that would only lay down and rest with an idea once it had ripped it to shreds, chewed it up unmercifully, and hollered out, garçon. And then, even after that, it pointed out that a rebel treated his own thoughts somewhat in the same sense of pawing them. And then it even gave you a passing reference to the definition of pawing, and that is treating something with an unwelcome familiarity. Which I could not resist pointing out to you that is the way the collective feels about, and even in yourself, the collective ideas, ones that you already have, that's the way they feel about you trying to take a non-polarized view. Now your own mind might want to say things like, don't be rude. But what they mean is, don't paw me. I suggest to you is a much more definite definition, because it is saying, don't treat me with that kind of unwelcome familiarity. And of course, I might point out the kind of cheap date that a person has with their own mind, that you might say, something real crude. I'm not going to say it, but like, hey, get out of the car and walk. It's like collective wisdom saying, don't paw me. But I just want you to understand it was in there, and I'm not sure everybody heard it, was a reference to, at least one of the definitions of pawing, or pieces of it, was treating something with an unwelcome familiarity, like, get your hands off me. Now forget about, some woman treating some guy like, we just met. Whatever. Consider this. There's no reason that Cairo brought it up. And that is the whole is inside of you individually, and on the wide range of the human drama, that is the way the collective thoughts of man at any given time, no matter where you are, no matter what era, that is the way the collective ideas out there, if you were foolish enough to stretch reality, to be able to look at collective thought in a non-polarized way. If you could do that and still be dumb enough to want to stand up and holler, hey, the emperor's got on polarized clothes. You'd be as dumb as they are to do it, but I want you to understand that is the way they would treat it. If you tried to stand up to take the little episode that I made up of pointing out that you could almost talk to somebody in a non-polarized way, like sitting with a stranger at a coffee counter, and he points out, he makes some complaint, he raises a complaint about the limited, mechanical, unsavory, untoward actions of his brother-in-law, and you go, yeah, and then you kind of point out in a very minor way that happens. It happens amongst ordinary people. You just sort of point out a non-polarized view, like, well, sometimes circumstances seem to make people decent, well-meaning people do things that they would never intend to do. They will admit it. And the guy goes, yeah, it must have been nice talking to you. In other words, it really causes no great ripple in the ordinary cosmic fabric of the city, of the collective thought. But if it did, if you could take that episode and it wasn't you or just even two strangers talking, and one of them offers what amounts to a non-polarized, a rebellious, or revolutionist view, that is, it is not favoring, it's not condemning, nor is it ignoring. It actually comments, it takes some view of it, it acknowledges the fact that this exists, but then out of the three possibilities, which is the only three possible in the city to ordinary thought, is you either favor something, condemn it, or ignore it. If you're just not interested and you hear it, but then that's the end of it. You got no comment, that you don't give a damn. This is what makes it strange, is you do give it some attention, if you were doing it in a revolutionist view, but you do not do the other two possibilities. In other words, you've done that which almost does not exist. Now, if you tried that, what I was trying to get you to see, if you were dumb enough, if you were stupid enough, and you understood it, and still tried to do it on a wide range, I'm just trying to get you to consider the physical dynamics of what would happen. Is it collective thought? Not that it's wrong, because you're not condemning it, but collective thought would feel like, hey, quit pawing me, mother. That is, quit treating me with that kind of unwelcome familiarity. And it doesn't matter what it is, because if you're giving non-polar attention to ordinary thought, it is unwelcome familiarity. Has ordinary thought ever come look you up now that you're a boy and girl genius? Is ordinary thought your best friends, your relatives, just ordinary thought out in the street? Has the world come to you and go, we've had our eye on you, we knew that you'd finally develop this piercing intellect and be able to see through the folly of human life. Give us your insight. Have you? Anyone who is tempted to say yes, please leave. We do not need additional freelance morons around here. No, thank you. We have enough union people here. I think I speak for a large segment of us. We do not need you freelancers. Well, let's try a few here for a change that have been requested. As you know how it goes out there, the car routes were read, and the numbers are flashed up here on the board. Now that we're between baseball and soccer season, we're use of the scoreboard, and people write down the number of the page, and here we go. And Kyrut said, somebody requested here this one, but it was a series. They're short, and I'll stick them all together for your additional elucidation. And Kyrut said, everybody knows what's coming next. And Kyrut added, even in the dark, one way to tell the ordinary is that they pretend they don't. I guess, to play the part again, if we're ordinary, if I was speaking the part of an ordinary person, they'd certainly turn this on. We're trying to take it seriously in some way. Then they would say, well, wait a minute. That's not true. People don't pretend that they don't. Sure they do. How do you know that you're ordinary? Do them both again. Listen, Kyrut said, everybody knows what's coming next. I'm not going to stay here and try to prove that because it's unprovable. But you either know it or you don't. Everybody knows what's coming next. I mean, sometimes you're just in the right mood, especially if you're not particularly interested. How about back to the three possibilities? You hear something going on in life, and you're neither interested nor negatively interested. That is, you're not in favor of what's going on. You're not in disfavor. You're just not interested. And somebody's sitting, let's say you turn on the news, and they say, can you believe it? Can you believe? And they come out with something that just happened. And they say, and they show people down on the street, and people, and they even interview somebody, and they say, my God, I can't believe it. And it just strikes you. Let's assume you got no aggression, because if you're not interested, you're not being sarcastic. But if you thought anything, you think, well, how the hell can they be surprised at that? I mean, what else did they expect was going to happen? Now, everybody's done that. You don't have to be a boy genius. All you got to do is it just almost be forced on your attention, and you not be interested. That you, the third possibility, that you were ignoring it. Something in ordinary life, the cultural life of the city, secondary social affairs of man, that is something that you hear about, you don't favor it, you don't condemn it, you're not normally interested in it. That is, you would ignore it, but suddenly it just comes to your attention, like they blurt it out real loud on your TV, or somebody tells you about it. Like, can you believe that so-and-so happened? And let's say you know just enough about it, that you know what's going on, but you got no interest in it, and your feeling is, well, how in the hell can you people be surprised? Are you idiots? I mean, what should you expect? Everybody knows what's coming next. I'm not going to stay any longer. Hate to be dogmatic, but I don't care. I've had my shots. This is simple fact. Everybody knows what's coming next. At least you choke on that, wait. And Kyrut added, even in the dark, you can tell ordinary people because they pretend they don't. Now, where I started sort of backing up was that if you were falling into that, you could say, well, that's not true. If you're just ordinary sane people, why would they pretend they don't know what's going on? Because if they didn't, they would go nuts. That's why. I'm glad you asked. And we skipped one if you didn't follow it, and it picked back up. I was trying to kind of Kyrut and I was kind of, this one page later, was still connected. And Kyrut picked back up again on just what we're doing. To it. One purpose of human institutions is to keep humans from immediately realizing that they do know what's coming next. Think about that for a second. Assuming as you should by now, that that is not an attack on human institutions. We're not here condemning or praising them. And we're obviously not ignoring them. We wouldn't bring them up. Well, wait a minute, it's got to be one of the two. Don't give me that. One purpose of human institutions, and you would think otherwise, assuming again that we're not attacking them. If you think about religion, politics, religion always being an easy one, or education, that you would think with a purpose, assuming that we're not here castigating them, that they've got to be serving some useful purpose, right? Well, let's try it back to with the Chi root. One purpose of human institutions is to keep humans from immediately realizing that they do know what's coming next. One more quick time. Now try it. Let's assume, how about religion? That's a good one. Or just cultural sense of morality. But just religion's always an easy one. You would think with the whole purpose, if we're not attacking religion, you would say, or institutions of any kind, the political machinery of a society. And you would say, well, even if it's failing, or even if it's not doing a 100% job, which nothing is, if it's not 100% perfect, at least they're trying to assist humanity. Okay. But this Chi root points out the kind of assistance that no one else has ever noticed. The assistance is to keep people from realizing the fact that, hey, I do know what's coming next. Think about it. All right, religion again. All right, everybody knows, hate to give you the blues, but everybody knows that the big what's coming next is the big D. No, not go to Dallas, no. It's go to dead. Everybody knows that. They know what's coming next. You can say, well, what's coming next? You can say, well, my 35th birthday. Oh, right, after that. My 36th birthday. Well, but after that. Well, all right. A little further. All right. My 60th birthday or 65th, and I'll retire. Okay, beyond that, well, I'm going to move to Florida. How about beyond? Everybody knows what the ultimate coming next is. I'm going to die. And everybody knows after that what's going to happen. Which is, I don't know. So what's the purpose of religion? It says, oh, yes, we do. You go, oh, I forgot. Yeah, I do. And Chi root pick back up, says this triumvirate. One purpose of human institutions is to keep humans from immediately realizing that they do know what's coming next. At least you take it too personal religion. How about politics? If you like that one again, especially in our wonderful part of this planet where it seems to be free elections, remember that, local reality, if local reality is General Motors, they don't care whether you buy an Oldsmobile or a Pontiac. People up north, a Pontiac. What the hell does General Motors care? It don't care. Get out there and vote. By God, either vote for a socialist or a fascist. Vote for a conservative or a liberal. Exercise your right. We don't know what's going to happen next. You make the future. It's your vote tomorrow. Hey! Wonderful. Freedom. Free elections. That is an institution. May I repeat? Have you already forgotten it? One purpose of all human institutions is to keep humans from immediately realizing that they do know what's coming next. That is, they do know that life seems to, of course they don't say this, you're not supposed to, but everybody sort of knows that no matter what I do, life seems to kind of be marching right along and seems to have, let's all kicking a good cliche right here at the end, that life seems to have its own personal agenda. In some way, if somebody forced me down right quick and tortured me and said, does it make any long-range difference whether you have a Democrat or a Republican running this country? And it's almost impossible to do this because you stop and say, well, it does, because you look back at history, which used to be known as waiting for the next bus, remember? Because everything in your brain says, well, it does make a difference. That if we'd have had a different person in the White House, to take local history, American history, in the 30s, we would not have had the big D, the big death, the big depression. We would not have had that. Or if we had had a Republican in the White House in the 50s, the late 50s, we would not have been in Korea fighting that useless war. You can say that after the fact. And yet if you hold somebody down and you knew how to tickle and torture them in just the right way, people sort of know that you're going to vote for General Motors. You're going to buy General Motors. You can look at the car, whether it be a religion, whether it be a political party, and it can say Oldsmobile. And over here it says Buick. And you look around as best you can, and nowhere does it say both of these are made by the same company. And everything in your ordinary level tells you that it does make a difference. But may I point out that is AF. Not audio fidelity, they're out of business. It is after the fact. Because everyone knows, sort of, huh? I knew you'd remember. Are we up? Is the tape already off? Okay, well, let me repeat.
2 more minutes.
Well, I thought we were off, folks, and I hate to leave you just with the human institutions, the movement of society, the collective thought of man, part of the purpose, and it is quite eye-opening if you don't get involved with it and thinking, what is this, a trick, a conspiracy? Is it part of the purpose of the collectivism of life? Is to keep the individual from realizing the fact that he does know what's coming next. What's the whole purpose in religion? It's so that you don't need a priest, you don't need a rabbi. Everybody knows. But Jesus, what fun is that? I mean, especially if you're ordinary, you think, God Almighty, that's the ultimate in having the blues. Thanks a lot. I'm glad I tuned you in. You don't need me. You already know that. Yes, but that's one reason we all got together and we whistle and we dance and we throw roses and we dress up funny and we go, ha ha. Life is kind of unpredictable. It's a good thing we've got these large institutions, the collective wisdom of man, to give us some encouragement and hope in these times of great uncertainty. There is no uncertainty. You know what's coming next. Bye. It's the end. That's what's coming next. The end of the show. Hi on tape. How are you private insiders? This is Ross Perot speaking. Oh, don't get excited out there in California. It's not really, it's just me. I'm going to reread this one. I know this is... It's just one of the ones I want you to be aware so that you don't get distracted. That I'm aware that you're aware sometimes that some of these get so convoluted and sometimes sprinkled fairly liberally with that which seems to provoke a certain kind of joviality here in the room. But I hate for you to be so illusioned to think that it's just a joke or it's not connected. What is better than an explanatory introduction that is more complicated and meaningless than the body of the work that you're attempting to explain? I do not know. I don't know. I don't have to know. That's why I'm Ross Perot. So here we go. I'm going to read it. Derek did a great job, but listen, I'm going to read it just... It's split up into 3 parts, but listen to it. It's connected with everything we're talking about. Kairouk just threw in a little, he dressed it up. And Kairouk said, there is a unique and fascinating dance within man, and the ballroom floor is at the brainstem level. And then this is a quote. This is where it's, hello, this is station WHOR. If any of you want to think about that. Providing tonight's music. Broadcasting, not FM and AM, listen, broadcasting on both your electrical and chemical dials. And thanks to our secret and miraculous sponsorships, you can never tell quite where we're coming from, or remember exactly how you got your radio, or figure out why your mother told you to turn us off at 10 and go to bed. Those who can force the dance within to merge with the dance without never have to go to bed. See, because it started out, the fascinating dance I was trying to point out, of course, is what appears to be a man's individual personal life. And Kyrie pointing out that the ballroom floor is actually the level of the brainstem, is the merging of the universal and the local, the merging of the primary and the secondary. That's where the fascinating dance is. Now, I say fascinating, or Kyrie did, and that's why ordinary people go, God, am I fascinating? If they don't have anything else to do. Of course, normally then they have to strike a pose because they're only fascinating at the physical level. That's the best they got. But they go, that's what mirrors are for. Look at, I was feeling kind of bad, especially when I made such a foolish comment there at the party talking about, what was happening in the Balkans. And somebody mentioned, the Caspian Sea. And I went, yeah. And I couldn't think where the hell it was. And I made an ass of myself. But you race home. You got the mirror and, turn to your good side and you think, I ain't all that bad. Plus, I've lost 10 pounds. Don't I look nice? Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, fuck being stupid. Don't I look good? Okay. Just wanted to be sure that you... I want to be sure that you were following along and taking notes. And well, this is the one it was the one about pawing, but I already did most of it. It was This Zoo's for You was the title of it. It's similar to a dog. One man wouldn't lay down with an idea until he had turned around with it 3 or 4 times. Which I guess that could have been a Kairos. But no. Pressed on to a second paragraph. Another man, similar to an inebriated tiger, wouldn't rest with any idea until he had, ripped it to shreds, chewed it unmercifully, and called to the waiter, another round over here. And then the last part was what I'd already done, it was a passing reference to the at least partial, one of the definitions of pawing something. See, which was tied to this inebriated tiger ripping an idea to shreds before he'd lay down with it, which is sort of an extended version of a dog turning around. Because if you were following that kind of metaphor, you'd think, well, that's all right, because a man should take a new idea or an idea and go, well, let me consider it, let me ponder it, let me reflect on it, let me muse on it, let me ruminate. Me, the old cow brain, I'll remunerate. So that sounds right, but then the next paragraph is it seems to be that you have upped the stakes a little bit, not just turn around with an idea. It was this tiger, as opposed to a friendly domesticated canine, that the tiger wouldn't lay down with an idea. Screw turned around a few times. The tiger wouldn't lay down and rest with it until he had shredded it, ripped it, chewed on it. And then hollered, bring out some more of that same stuff that caused him to do that. Not the same ideas, but whatever caused him to take that attitude. And then the last part was giving, because all that infers a pawing. Because you could say that the tiger was mauling the ideas, pawing it. And then we kind of shifted verbal, if not neural gears, for me to try to get you to consider one of the connotations, if not definition, of pawing is an unwelcome familiarity, which all ordinary ideas, all treat any sort of impartial investigation thereof as pawing. Because any attempt to be familiar, in this sense, that is, to actually know what's going on, to look at it, to look it dead plain in the eye, ordinary information, ideas, and thought considers that pawing. They consider, hey, I got in the car with you, but I didn't say, immediately try to take my clothes off. I did not ask for this unwelcome familiarity. Which, of course, helps keep the ordinary world of ideas, the ordinary secondary world, stable and predictable. And Kairut said, it's still about dance, and I'm not sure this one came over after I heard it read. out loud, but see if you can hear it. There's a man over in the city, and he describes average human relationships. And instead of talking about social, like, lovers and friends, but it's lovers perhaps is the best example. Relationship normally of the two different sexes. Or, of course, those of you in California, the 3 or 4 different sexes. Just a joke, folks. You knew that. A man over in the city describes ordinary human relationships as, and here we quote this man, a dance done with both partners simultaneously standing on each other's feet, periodically broken by interludes of them discussing the relative propriety of the arrangement. And that's not the way a good country and western song, or back when Ernest Tubb, God bless him, was alive and sang those kind of poetic reflections upon the American dream of romantic love. That is not the way people normally describe the battle of the sexes. This guy was being nice. He called it the dance of human relationship, that both partners are simultaneously standing on each other's feet. Not just staying there. Remember, this is part of the dance. If they're both simultaneous, don't ask me to explain it. You got to be able to think outside of 4-dimensional terms, or at least 3. They dance, but they're both standing on each other's feet continually. But it is periodically broken up by brief interludes of them discussing. Discussing, you could put in quotation marks if you would like, of them discussing the relative propriety of this arrangement. And of course you could put propriety in quotation marks. This is not the way that Travis Trent or Buck Owens would have sung about this relationship. But that's why Kairou's got a TV show and both of those guys are washed up. Of course, the truth is, Buck's not washed up. He's just on TV. He just owns, like 50 TV stations. Buck, don't pull the plug on us. That's right. He don't own a cable station. Fuck him. I didn't mean that personally, but this one, since somebody asked it, Kairut and I don't think directly indicate to the readers that they were connected, but this is still, to give you somewhere to chew on, you could take it connected or related to human relationships again, to give you a place to start. And Kairut said, no matter their bravado and protestations to the contrary, everybody does have something to lose. Now consider how often people will claim that they don't care. They will do a kind of whistling in the dark. In sexual relationships, people will shake a fist at one another if somebody leaves the room or the house and go, go ahead, I don't care, I got nothing to lose, I don't care what you do. People do it. In friendship, people just do it, strangers bumping into each other at a bar. The people continually will say, I got nothing to lose, what do I care? I don't mean sitting at home on their own in a kind of relationship, even a passing dance with somebody. They go, I don't care. Like somebody comes by and says, boy, you ugly. And let's say if somebody of the opposite sex and you look and it's not your type and you think, what do I care? That's the sense, whether you said it or not, it's the sense of I got nothing to lose. But would you listen a bit deeper? It doesn't cost any more. Unless you're picking us up on the famous Buck Owens cable network, and then I don't know what it costs. And Cairo said, no matter their bravado and protestations to the contrary, everybody does have something to lose. Funny thing is, though, that from a more complex rebel view, whatever it was, that is, that you lost, was of no lasting consequence, or else you would have not misplaced it or so easily relinquished it in the first place. Which I don't even want to get into that. Do it yourself, because you can go, wait a minute, what do you mean so easily? What if I couldn't help it? I couldn't help it my ass. And the last of it is, in a still wider, less personal view, you might put it this way. What's in the loop can't leave the loop. Or what's in the system can't leave the system. So anytime that you say, well, I got nothing to lose, it's truer than you think. You can turn your head. But what was in the closet when you got here? is in the closet when you go. Well, that was the last of the request. May I conclude by reading the last three that were of a similar bent. God, who bent the paper? And Kairoot said, with the collective, when the truth needs to be updated, they update it. With the revolutionists, however, the situation is much more, are you ready, dramatic, dangerous, destructive, and all around fraught with fun and filled with such inquiries as, hey, is that your lowrider down the corner? And then through the auspices of the Kairousians press service, this news item, city research and polling, investigation amongst the collective has once again shown that happiness is not caused by health, wealth, or social position. But, in a sidebar, he notes also that rebels have long known that happiness causes happiness, but have said nothing, since it cannot be proven. And lastly, Kairoot points out, while he was reflecting on some of his past songs, a rebel composer mused. Funny, but looking back on it, the words weren't all that important, though they were fun. And then later he added to himself, a lot of fun. Good night in TV land. Just think, it's only, 5 more months to St. Quantum's Day.